Hello, everyone. Mr. Lisée, I'm looking at the wording in the press release, and it says that the Parti Quebecois has always defended the Quebecois identity, but in more of a defensive way, and now you're moving towards a positive, serene, and inclusive approach. So is that an acknowledgement that your previous strategic ways of doing things, was that a failure?
No, I think we're at the next stage. We're at the next stage. I think when Bill 101 was passed, the situation was dire, and it was a defensive measure. Now what we say is that we want to have our students learn about citizenship, about freedom of religion, the freedom of expression, and be advised of the perils of credit, of radical Islam, and of sexual predators. This is a positive way. We have to go forward on that. We want to express what our common values and what we share and what we can do together. And one of the elements of this positive posture is to say we have to work much harder at getting Quebecers from other lands that come here to have good jobs equal to their abilities and qualifications. And we haven't worked sufficiently well in the past. We should do much more on that. And we commit to do that at first. And what we're saying today is that a PQ government, its first measures on all these issues of identity and immigration would be to implement a series of measures that would better serve Quebecers of different origins that are not in good enough jobs, that have been denied jobs or lodging in the past, and that's a priority.
You had very harsh words for the CAQ because of the ad that they put out this morning saying it's not really truthful, but fundamentally aren't the CAQ and the PQ saying the same thing when it comes to the Chador? What's the difference between your position and the CAQ's position?
Well, that's the point. They're trying to say there's a difference when there's not. So that's where the lie is. We've been exempt in Quebec of this kind of American-style willful lying in political ads until today. Today, François Legault decided to willfully emit a lie, and that's the first time we see this here. I think he believes that some people that it will stick. What I believe is that most Quebecers will see that and be revulsed by a Quebec politician that resorts to lying to try to make political points. Now, we know that it's going well in the 4 by-elections and that it's not going well for the CAQ in the by-elections. So is that why they decide to go all out and resort to lying, to trying to hold on to some votes? Well, it's pathetic.
Merci.
Ryan Hicks, CBC.
Just dovetailing on that. Taking away, in that CAQ ad, taking away the text and let's look at just the image and the image of a woman in a chador in a negative ad. Is that something you would be comfortable with as party leader, that your party would use in an election, using the image of a woman in a chador or any kind of religious clothing in a negative ad?
I see your point. Someone has said that the chador itself is a symbol of oppression of women. That person is Premier Philippe Couillard last year. And I think he was right then. He changed his mind now. And I'll keep it at that.
My question is more looking into the next election. Mm-hmm. If your people came to you and said, let's put out this negative ad that with an image of a woman in a chador or a niqab, would you be comfortable with that?
I would be uncomfortable.
Okay. My other question is on the burqa consultation. So you said it's a good idea. Why is it a good idea, and will you speak to women who wear a burqa as part of this consultation?
Well, the consultation will go to what other democracies have done when they dealt with that, and they've dealt with it in different ways. And I'm going to ask parliamentarians and experts yeah, sure. The answer is yes to your question, But I don't want a show trial. I don't want, an open thing where racist things would be said. I don't want that. I don't want that in any case. I want a measured, expert collection of facts and recommendations to the Quebec government.
Raquel Fletcher, Global.
Should teachers be allowed to wear chadors in Quebec schools?
Well, yes. What we say now is that for new hires, the dress code will be no political, social, or religious signs. So for new teachers. Existing teachers have the right that they have for the whole career, and we will, as a National Assembly, say, listen, when you work for the state, you should have a duty of not showing your convictions, be they political, social, or religious. But you decide. But that would be the preferred thing to do. But as for teachers, and for the health sector, that's the whole thing. For the health sector, we simply say, it would be nice if a patient would not have to see the convictions of the employee in any way. It would be nice. Think about it, okay? But for teachers who are figures of authority at the primary and secondary school, we're not talking about CEGEPs or universities, but primary and secondary schools, we say new hires will have this new dress code in terms of signs.
Okay. If you're elected premier in 2018, how will you reach out to new immigrants, particularly women, as the premier?
Well, I will by being more forceful than any premier before me in fighting against racism and discrimination. That's clear. I will want to make sure that young students have the absolute right to knowledge, and I will act forcefully against sects that would take out young kids and refrain or make it so that they don't learn what a normal Quebec child should know. Our insistence on equality of men and women cannot be stronger. We think this equality should predominate on other issues when deciding on a number of things. And I'm not going to wait until the election. We have two initiatives already started in the Parti Quebecois to make sure that there are more members of diversity in the party, helping us frame policy on these issues in particular, but policy on all issues as well. And we know that across the board, we talk a lot about these identity issues and religious signs, but what members of the communities are telling us, like others, we want good jobs. We want to be recognized for our skills. We want to be part of the dynamism of Quebec. Stop saying that we're the other. We're you. So that's why we want an inclusive approach to that. And we're forceful on secularism, and we're equally forceful on making sure that every immigrant story in Quebec is a success story.
Do you regret comments that you made during the leadership campaign that women could hide weapons underneath their chadors or their burqas?
Not my best line. Thank you.
Caroline Plante, La Gazette.
There's me. Hello. Mr. Lisée, you've said repeatedly...
Oh, that was a good punch. I mean, it was a nice ending.
Yeah, but you said repeatedly, you've said that you want to reach out to the Anglophone and Allophone community. How confident are you that they will adhere to this idea of reviving elements of the Values Charter?
Well, you could say there's elements also in the Liberal bill. Anything we do was included in the previous debate. So the question is, clearly there is a majority of Quebecers that want to go forward on that. What is the more what is the more reasonable path? Who is more trustworthy to do this and in the most respectful and gradual way? And I think the answer is the Parti Quebecois.
Okay. What happens to the?
You seem skeptical.
What's that?
You seem skeptical. Yeah.
What happens to the public sector employee who refuses to comply and leave his or her religious symbol at home? You said no sanctions, but won't that create tension in the workplace among employees? What happens to that employee?
Well, it's when you change attitudes in a society. You know, there's discussion, and there's oh, I decided to go along, you didn't. So there's going to be discussion. But that's how a society changes its attitudes. But I'll say, listen, there's no sanctions, there's no timetable. So this is my right, and I know Quebecers. You know, they can be they can be forceful in asserting their rights. I have no inquiétude.
Wouldn't that lead to some sort of bullying?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
So that person would be welcomed in the public service and be able to fully, work and exercise his or her right to wear a religious symbol.
Exactly
Despite what you're saying in this strategy.
Exactly so.
Okay. And last question, sorry. What about Quebecers who don't want to choose between a job and a religious symbol? Some Quebecers would prefer not having to choose between, do I apply for a job in the public service and risk getting bullied or looked at the wrong way?
Well, laws are laws, and so you have the choice to comply or do something else. Thank you.
Merci.